So the question that came in is, and I want to just again reiterate, if you're new to the woo-woo stuff, if you're kind of in between, or if you're really stuck in old dogma, you may not be at a spiritual place to be able to be ready for this. Okay. So always, 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 always use discernment, no matter what. Like discernment is key. Okay. Discernment is key for everything, not because it's right or wrong, not because it's truth or not, but literally it's because of where you are on your own spiritual path. Again, there's no judgment in that. Everybody's in a different place. Okay. But this question is so powerful. And I think this is what throws off so many people, especially when they come from the Christian background. Okay. Now, one of the things, again, really quickly, that I just have to lay out there is one of the things that my guides have told me from the very beginning, the very get-go, the whole purpose I had to use the word Christian psychic was to shake things up and break the norm. And part of the calling for me is to help people break out of old dogma and really come into spiritual truth. Okay. Jesus and the angels are with me all the time. Jesus is one of my guides, you could say. Like he's always there with me ever since I was little. I've been able to see him and the angels. But I also see a variety of different beings, and I always have, right? So again, this is nothing new for me, but to step out with this spiritual message in the way that I am is a little bit different than what a lot of teachers teach, because either it seems like everybody's either so far into the woo, right, into the spiritual stuff and the woo and all of the crazy out there kind of weird stuff, right, or they're so stuck in Christian dogma that they're not willing to see anything beyond what they've been taught in their church with their rules in their religion, right? And what I feel like part of my purpose is to help the most important thing, no matter what. Okay, the most important thing to me, no matter what it is you having a personal relationship with Jesus for yourself. Okay. So I've had so many weird experiences about this, you guys. When I like one of the ones that's popping into my head right now. So a lot of what I do, I just go with what my guides are showing me. They'll give me a little flashback of an experience. That's what's happening right now. Okay. This little flashback I just got was a few years ago at the book fair. I'm trying to think what it was called. I'm trying to remember. It was in Tucson, and it was a book fair, and I had a booth there with a friend of mine. And it was when I don't even know if I had published the Secret Psychic book yet. I think it was still just my first book, and the journal, I think. And I had my sign that said Jennifer Lonnberg, Christian Psychic, in the back. And I had met some other people in the booths around me that were amazing, like really cool people. They, of course, had a little bit different background than I did, but it was so cool because after I talked to one of the other guys that was there as a vendor, he started bringing people over. He's like, you've got to meet this girl. Like, she's Christian and she's psychic and it's crazy. And so they would come over, and there was this one group of young kids, and they were so cool. They were like surfer dude kids, right? And they were like, we're so in with like the angels and stuff, but like the religion and everything is just not like for me. Like, we're not into the whole thing. And I'm like, well, okay, that's fine. Like, that's not my purpose, is not to judge you or to anything like that. Like, I didn't tell them that, but in my mind, I'm thinking, well, I'm not going to judge them. So I said, that's really cool. Like, to each their own, right? For me, I know that Jesus is real because he's been in my world. He's been one of my guides. I have literally seen him my entire life. So to me, that has always been Christianity. To me, has always been a core element to who I am, to what I teach, to everything I do, from the way that I've lived my life, to the way that I've raised my kids, to the way that I do my business. Like, everything has that at the base, because I feel like that is so important. I've always said that the Bible for me is like a handbook or a manual. Like, you can't even buy a toaster without having a handbook, right? Or a manual that shows you how to operate, right? I don't feel like God just threw us down here and said, good luck, right? Like, the Bible is a manual to help us. The other thing is that I've always been drawn to the stars, and the stars to me have always been a map. Think about back in the day when you were sailing a ship. Do you think God was throw us down here without help, right? So we've got a manual and we've got a map, and I've always felt that way. So to me, astrology doesn't threaten my religion or my Christianity or whatever you want to call it either, because to me, it makes sense that he would make this entire planet for us, right? Everything in this planet, everything in the galaxy, everything in the solar system has all been meant to work together. That's, again, my opinion. Now, the interesting thing is when you start looking into the roots of astrology, and if you want to go down the rabbit hole, you'll find out that originally it was part of the church, right? It originally was. You may not like that. You may not want to accept it. Doesn't matter. Historically speaking, there are things in the old churches that point to astrology was part of it. Okay. The Christmas star, hello, like the Christmas star alone, that is astrology with a very precise alignment, recording and sending the astrologers to the place where Jesus was born. Like, so however you want to look at this, again, this is where it comes into discernment of what is for you and what is not for you. Because the one thing that I never want to do is shake somebody off their faith. Right now, this is something that I kind of say jokingly, but it's very serious. Okay. If you're in your faith to where if something says something and it throws you off kilter, you probably should work on your faith first and don't let that be a stumbling block for you. Okay. This is where the joking comes in. If you're an alcoholic, don't go preach in a bar. Do you know what I mean? Like, just don't go there. There are other places that you can go that you don't need to put yourself in that position. So if your faith is new, or if your faith is rocky, or if you're unsure, then you need to look for what's going to help you deepen your faith. Again, to me, the only important thing is that you have a personal relationship with God, with Jesus, understanding that you are divine, you are loved, and you are worthy. Okay. That's my goal. Again, I'm not here to be a preacher. I'm not preaching at anybody. I'm telling you my personal opinion from what this question is that came up, and I'm getting there. Okay. So with all of that background, knowing where I come from, knowing where my faith is, understanding that I use the Bible because for me, it's like a manual, and I do reference the Bible a lot, not because I'm trying to make anybody believe it or whatever, but what I had told these kids, I just realized I'm getting off track. What I had told these kids, these surfer dudes, I'm like, okay, so that's fine. Like, I love the angels. I work with the angels all the time. Jesus is one of my guides, so I hang out with him too. Like, it's all cool. And I'm like, so just out of curiosity, like, why are you so opposed to reading the Bible? And they're like, there's just too much religiosity and it's just too much dogma and whatever. And I'm like, fair enough. I get that. Like, there's how many thousands of different denominations? The only reason there's different denominations is because people can't agree. Plain and simple. You can do all kinds of different things about it. You can, I'm going to check comments again. If anybody has any comments, let me know. I'm watching them on my phone. Okay. So you can argue that however 50 different ways you want to argue it, but plain and simple, the only reason that there are Lutherans, Baptists, Catholics, Methodists, non-denominational, there's so many different kinds of Baptists, right? Like, there's Calvary Baptists and there's First Baptist, and there's, I mean, I can't even name them all, Southern Baptist, and I'm trying to think of some of the other ones that I know. And I'm not trying to pick on anybody's, none of that. Like, to me, I don't care which religion, like, again, coming back to, as long as you have a personal relationship with God, and as long as you know that Jesus is there for you, that is what matters to me. Okay. So you can argue this a million different ways to one, whatever you want to do. But what I had asked them is, why are you so against reading the Bible? And they said, because of the religiosity and because of the dogma. So I said, fair enough. What if you just read it as like an actual book? Because if nothing else, the one thing that we can all agree on is that in history, it is the longest standing book. Okay. It's the longest standing book, period. Okay. I could be wrong. There could possibly be others that I don't know about, but I was trying to make a point that throughout the ages, this book has continued. There has been archaeological proof that it's real, right? So there's all of these different things. Now, that being said, I also feel like, this is kind of a side note, but I also feel like there's so many things that were left out and were tweaked and were changed. And so we need to be sure enough in our faith that looking at some of these other things doesn't shake us, right? So this is where the discernment comes in, because you need to know where you are in your personal experience with your personal faith and your personal relationship with God, to know what you can look at and where you can explore the truth and the amazing, like, the omnipresence and omnipotence of God is so beyond anything as a human that we will ever be able to understand. Okay. So it's just so much more. And I myself can't think that somewhere some person didn't screw this up a little bit. Right. So I rely more on reading the Bible for myself, praying and using discernment and asking for guidance on how this is all supposed to work for me. Right. So that's what I would encourage you to do is pray about it for yourself, read the Bible for yourself, discern it for yourself, and ask for guidance on what it's supposed to mean for you. Again, everybody here is in a different experience, in a different soul expression, and in a different soul purpose. Like all of these things are up in the air, right? But one of the things that it always comes down to, and this is the question, so I'm finally getting there, guys. So thanks for bearing with me, but I feel like that backstory is so important because I feel like you need to have an understanding of where we get to this question. So the question is, I'm just going to read what she said. She said, okay, so I'm a part of these groups, and one of them, and this is typical you guys too as well. Like part of the reason I made Embodied Grace Community is because I want to have a safe place to be able to talk about these kind of things, because if you get into the woo woo world, there's so much out there, and it's so like it can get so beyond, right? And it's like, okay, wait, this almost sounds a little bit kooky at this point. So what she's saying is I'm a part of these other groups, and there's one where they say they channel messages, and this guy is claiming that he channels God, and it makes sense what he's saying, and he's talking about moving from 3D to 5D. However, one of the messages said there is no devil, which then makes me not believe. So why do some people think there is no devil? Okay. So this is where this is where we get into this thing. Now I'm going to just kind of break this down again. So again, you guys, I'm sorry, this is way longer than normal. Bear with me on this, but I want to be clear about how this is. Okay. So I want to back up and say, in this physical reality, in 3D reality, on this planet, in Earth, in this human experience, we do experience Satan, darkness, devil, entities, demons, all of those things, just as there are angels and celestial help and spirit guides and all of these things, right? Like it's all relative on this planet. It's all part of this experience. Part of the Earth planet, part of the experience here is contrast, good, bad, light, dark, up, down, right? So you get it. So there's contrast. So yes, there are demons. Yes, the devil is on this planet. Yes, there can be things that happen. On the other side of that, when you start moving into the higher realms, how I answered this is, on the planet, the devil is real, of course, because this is a contrast planet. Like this is contrast. But I really feel like this is, in a nutshell, the reason that it won't in 5D, and the reason why some people think that the devil isn't real, is that it won't be as necessary. And here's the thing. This is really hard to explain, you guys. But when you are opening up and understanding the reality of spiritual truth on the planet, this is it right here. The devil only has as much power as you give him. Okay, that's it. Like in a nutshell. The problem is we have so many things that we don't believe we're worthy, because again, I feel like this is a Christian thing. I think it's been beaten into our head that we're worthless sinners and we're not worth anything, which is a whole nother topic, because if you look up the word sin and the way that it was used, it really is a term that they used to use in archery, which means you miss the mark, which by God, we are all going to do. We are all going to miss the mark, right? We're not here to be perfect. That's not the point. So we're all going to miss the mark, right? But the thing is, we have so much fear about the devil that's why he gets to play. He gets to play because we give him that power. Now, again, I'm not saying he's not going to mess with you. I'm not saying there won't be things where he's trying to, but as you raise your vibration, and I just want to say too, I remember one time like unfollowing somebody because she said that, and not because she said it, because I knew what she meant. But I also feel like depending on where you're at in your spiritual path, it's really dangerous to think that there's no devil if you're not in a place that you understand it, right? This is a maturity thing. This isn't an arrogance thing. This isn't anything other than spiritual discipline and discernment, and how far you're in your spiritual path. So again, there's no judgment in any of this, right? So yes, I do feel like on this planet, the devil is real. Yes, I do believe that he can mess with you. Yes, I've cleared demons. I understand that the darkness is real. But as you move into 5D, what happens is it's really like, to be totally honest, it's almost like he gets bored. And you have to think of this. Like, if you think about, this is what my guides told me earlier when I was like, do I go in live and talk about this question, or do I just kind of give her a quick answer and let it be? But my guides, this whole afternoon, they've been like, or this whole morning, I should say, I don't even know what time it is. This whole morning, they've been like, no, like, you should go talk about it. And one of the things that they reminded me of is, if you have to remember, if you look in the Bible, the only time that the devil even messed with Jesus was when he was in a moment, right? He was worn down, he was weak, he was tired, whatever that was. And that is where the darkness will try to come in, which is why all of the things that I teach about limiting beliefs and mindset and self-care and self-awareness and discernment and all of the things that I talk about, that's why those are so important. Because when you start raising your vibration, and this is the next part of this, is when you raise your vibration high enough, the darkness becomes irrelevant. Now, it's hard to explain this. It doesn't mean that it's gone. It doesn't mean that it's not real. But when you learn to hold your vibration high enough, when you learn your own spiritual grace and you have enough discernment and enough discipline, spiritual discipline, to be looking at your energy, looking at your beliefs, taking care of yourself so that you're not in those weak moments. Because I'm telling you, whenever I've been spiritually attacked, it's been in the moments when I'm exhausted, I don't feel good, I'm sick. Like, those are the times where spiritual attack happens. Okay, so it's the same thing. This is why these things that I teach are so important. It's not just like, I don't just pull stuff out of thin air. The things I teach on are important for your spiritual path, because you don't want to be arrogant and think that the devil isn't real. But also, the more you raise your vibration, the more you understand spiritual truth, the more you understand universal laws, the deeper that you understand that God has said, do not fear, do not fear, do not fear. And the more that you remember that Jesus has told us that we have our own sovereignty, we have our own power, and we don't have to take the stuff from the darkness, then you become in a higher vibration, and then it becomes irrelevant. Like, the way that I see it is, the darkness is actually like, why bother with her? You know what I mean? And it's kind of that little joke. Like, I know there's like a joke that goes around that says something to the effect, I don't know who said it, but I've seen it like on memes and stuff, about make the devil say, oh shit, she's up, right? Like, that's kind of what it is. Like, when you get to the point in your own sovereignty and your own spiritual growth where you know who you are, you know your divine authority, and you know your divine truth, they stop messing with you. Not that they won't, because again, if you're worn down, if you're tired, if you're in a weak moment, that's when they'll pounce, right? That's when the darkness will pounce. But the reason some of the teachers that are out there say that there is no devil is, I think, partly because in divine truth, once we get beyond this, the devil has no power, right? So that would mean that in spirit, there's not really a whole lot of power that he has, because in divine truth, and this goes way beyond just biblical teaching. This is stuff that you have to like discern for yourself and feel in your heart and understand if it's truth or not for you, right? Because you could be having a totally different experience in this planet right now, and that means this is where I talked about in the very beginning, this is not for you. But when you raise your vibration enough, and some of the other spiritual teachers don't believe in the devil, partly because they don't want to see it, right? Now, each teacher is going to be different. There could be teachers that just don't believe in it, and they don't believe in the Bible, and so they don't think that the devil's real, and they think it's just a scare tactic to get people to behave, right? Now, my personal experience, I've seen way too many things that are dark, and I've had to clear too many spaces that I know that there is darkness on the planet. I understand it. However, I'm at a place now, I'm not afraid of it, because I have spiritual discipline, and I understand that the devil only has the power that you give him. Okay. Again, you guys, not saying that he won't try to attack, not saying that his little minions won't try to make your life miserable, but the more that you focus on your own limiting beliefs, your own emotions, your own worthiness issues. The more you work on those, the less he has to be able to work with. Plain and simple. Okay. So the people that are teaching it, again, there's a wide variety of what this could be. Each of those teachers is going to have their own reason that they believe that. I can't speak to why they don't believe it. But if somebody is teaching on 5D, likely they've done enough work themselves that they've already done the deep shadow work. They've already done the self-worth work, and it's no longer an issue because the darkness isn't going to bother somebody they can't break down. So I hope that makes sense. Like, it's so hard to explain this, but in a nutshell, as you raise your vibration, the darkness becomes irrelevant, basically because they stop messing with you because they know that they can't get anywhere. And it's no fun for them if they can't poke and prod and get a rise, because the way that they get energy is by getting you upset and getting you in those lower vibration emotions, getting you in that lower energy, getting you into resentment and hatred and misery and all of those things. Those are the ways that the darkness can get its power. That's what feeds it. That's the energy that it soaks in and feeds from. So when they can't poke and prod you and get that energy from you, they get bored and they move on. So in a nutshell, again, like I said, in the Bible, if you look, the only time that the devil really messed around with Jesus was when he was in a weak moment. So that kind of goes to show us, like, it's really important to take care of ourselves. And this is why. So I hope, I'm going to look and see, I see people watching, but I don't see people asking questions. So if you have questions about this, let me know. I'm happy to answer if anything else comes up, but I feel like in a nutshell, this is really important to cover. And I hope that this is beneficial. So sending you guys lots of love. I will see you guys all soon.